Hi, everybody. We're going to wait 1 minute to let other folks come into the meeting, and then we'll get started. All right, looks like we don't have many others joining us for right now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with this webinar. Hello, welcome to a webinar about TransAM management. This is created for both 5311 and 5310 subrecipients. My name is Jess Maffey. I'm a transit programs manager with DRPT, and I manage the Human Services Grant Program and assist with TransAM. And Grace, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Grace Stankus. I am a statewide transit planner at DRPT, and I am the main point of contact for TransAM, with Jess assisting.
Yes, so today we're just going to walk through the basics of TransAM, kind of all the functions that you would use in the program, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And we're also going to demo all the different actions on TransAM itself. So just a bit of housekeeping. You can probably all tell you are muted. We will have a question section at the end of each section and at the end of the webinar. You're welcome to use the chat feature at the top to send in questions as you have them, and when we pause, we'll answer those. Or if you kind of have a question as we're going along, or particularly like during the demo, if you got a question, if you'll just raise your hand using the raise hand feature at the top of the screen. We have another DRPT staff member, Miriam, on, and she's helping out with identifying you, and she'll give you the ability to unmute your mic so that you can ask your question. Also, as usual, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be sent out to you along with the slides and the written guidance that we mentioned. So you'll have all of this available to you pretty soon after the webinar. All right, getting into the agenda for today. As I mentioned, we're going to go over the basics. What is TransAM and how do you all use it? We're going to take a look at the website and where you can find written guidance on TransAM. And then we're going to talk a little bit about user management, and then we'll go into a demo. And then we'll get to the main part of the agenda, which is asset management. So that includes adding assets, updating them, and disposing of them in TransAM. And then Grace will demonstrate all of those as well. And finally, we'll put our contact information up there for you. All right, getting into the basics of TransAM. Many of you are probably familiar with it, but just in case you're new or you're a new grantee or new to your role, TransAM is DRPT's online asset management system. So DRPT and its subrecipients or grantees use TransAM to keep track of federally funded assets. So this primarily is your vehicles. We ask that you use TransAM to only track those vehicles purchased through the essentially DRPT funding. If you have vehicles in your fleet that are purchased outside these programs, please do not track that in TransAM. And if you have them in there, we ask that you remove them from the system. This is just because we really are just keeping an inventory of those federally funded vehicles in TransAM. Another thing about TransAM, in addition to the few updates that you're required to do per year that I'll mention later, TransAM actually has a lot of features that we don't require you use, but are available to you. So if you would like to use TransAM as even your primary inventory, you can do things like track maintenance in TransAM and record oil changes, state inspections, and other maintenance. You're able to put comments in there, you're able to upload documents. So there's actually a lot of options for this program if you choose to use it that way. So just wanted to walk through quickly going how to access TransAM. So as I said, these slides will be sent to you. If you click on this image, you'll go right to the home page there. And the thing I wanted to talk about here, the sign in is on the side there. And if you have forgotten your password or TransAM periodically resets the password, you can click this forgot your password button right there at the bottom. One thing I wanted to talk about with that is that we've been having some issues with people getting those reset password emails. So if you don't get an email after going through that forgot your password function, we really do ask you make sure you check your spam or junk mail folders, and especially that if you have a IT or some kind of IT system or firewall set up, to check and make sure those emails are not being blocked. So those emails come through with it's this email domain stands for Cambridge Systems, so camsys.com domain. Making sure any emails with that domain name can come through because there's really no other way for us to get that email to you for a reset password. If this happens and you can't figure it out, we are able to contact the developer to get reset manually, but again, TransAM will continue to require periodic password updates, and so it will continue to be an issue in the future if you can't get those emails unblocked. So we do ask that you try to figure that out with your IT system. So this, I wanted to mention something else that I think a lot of people aren't aware of that's available on the TransAM website. So once you log into TransAM, this is kind of the screen you'll see. Um, you'll see your organizational profile, your assets, and then if you scroll down to the very bottom, there's a couple of links there at the bottom, and those are actually written user guides. So everything we go over today is always available to you in a written step-by-step format right here at the bottom of the screen, and you can download the user guides, and there's also some user guide videos there for you. So I just want to point that out in case you're just in TransAM and you forgot a step, you can just scroll right to the bottom of the screen and get that guidance for you. Okay, so we're going to start going into kind of the functions of TransAM. So the first function really is setting up your organization and your users. So your organization or your agency will have an account in TransAM. If you're new or you're a new vehicle recipient, DRPT, we will set up an account for you and kind of get your first user in there. But most of you are grantees for a while now. So you have an account in TransAM, and you probably have some users in there. So the users have various roles and permissions within TransAM. There is a manager role, and we recommend that this is the main person responsible for the TransAM account. Usually that means the person who's primarily responsible for doing those vehicle updates or adding vehicles or kind of doing those primary functions within the system itself. Make sure that your manager role, and you can go, Grace will demonstrate this, but you can go to your staff and see what the roles are of each of your users. Make sure that manager role is a current staff person because that manager role can add and remove other users from your organization in TransAM. So that's kind of the main difference of the manager role versus any other user role is that manager, if you get a new staff member who you want to train on TransAM, you can add them in yourself. For the users, you can have as many users as you want in TransAM. You can keep adding them in there. We do ask you to have at least one additional user in addition to the manager to provide support in TransAM in the event of staff turnover. It's always good to kind of just have at least someone who knows what's going on or can get into the system. And then another point I like to make is that users, because some people, they see that old users are still in there and they say, oh, I want them deleted. But for whatever reason, TransAM doesn't actually allow you to delete users completely, but you'll see they are deactivated. And actually that's because any TransAM records all the historical actions on your assets. So it will say, who recorded an action like an oil change update. So that's why those users don't get deleted because it remains associated with their profile. So you can see who did a certain action. And both manager and users can add, update, and dispose of assets. So both of those roles can do all those kind of primary functions within TransAM. And with that, Grace, if you want to go into a demo.
Okay, yep, just gonna share my screen here. Can somebody give me a thumbs up that they see it? Okay. Okay, so when you first log on, this is the home screen that you will see. I'm just going to quickly go over navigation of the organization and individual profiles. So I logged in as a agency contact for Bristol. Just I know Melanie no longer works there. So this is the organization profile. You can see the asset summary. This is just kind of a quick snapshot of the vehicles and facilities that are have been entered into TransAM. You can see the staff, their status, whether they're active, the user role, and the privileges associated with that, with each individual user. And I'm able to click on a user, kind of see their roles and their contact information. And as a manager, I am able to update this person's profile or update their authorizations or deactivate this user if they're no longer working at an agency and no longer need access to TransAM. But I'm going to click on updating the authorizations just to show you what that looks like. So right now, Jay is a manager, but we can also add him as a technical contact, director of transit operations, or the NTD contact. These privileges are really just for receiving messages that are sent through the TransAM system. They're not super, we don't use them all that much. So this is not like a really important thing to have the privileges outlined. The user role is the most important, I would say. And so if you have a new staff member and you'd like to add them to the system to be able to enter asset information into TransAM, you can go to the agency profile, click actions, and then you can add a user. And so to do this, you do need a little bit of information about them. You will need their like their business email address. Title is helpful just for us internally to be able to see who is who. You will need their phone number and the office address. This is not a required field, but we just like to have complete information. So we ask that that is included. And then once the user is created, they will then get the generated password sent to their email that has been entered. And again, this is where it's very important to ensure that you are receiving these emails from TransAM so this new user can set their password and access the system. One other thing just to touch on as we're going through the sort of general navigation of the site, as Jess mentioned in the PowerPoint, down here at the bottom, there are these two user guides. One is just like a general TransAM user guide, and the other is specifically for human service providers. Both of them are really great resources. Just want to reiterate that. I had to reacquaint myself with some of the functions, and so I was just taking a look at the user guide, and it answered all of the questions that I had. It's very thorough. Highly recommend just taking a look at this as a refresher. If you have any questions as you get back into TransAM, if you haven't been in a little bit. Jess, anything else do you think I should cover in this section?
No, I think that's fine. Does anyone have any questions while we're here? All right.
Looks like we have one. Robin?
You should be able to unmute yourself now, Robin.
Sorry about that. I was like clicking on
fine.
every microphone I could see. I'm sorry. I was pulling up my, my TransAM while you were talking. So is only a manager allowed to add the users or change the users? Because I realize now I'm a user and my manager is long gone.
Yes, so only the manager role can add or deactivate users.
So would I contact you to help me out offline?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
contact
All right,
me or
great.
Grace, and we can give you that role.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
I'm going to stop sharing and hand it back over to you, Jess.
Okay. All right. All right, get over to my slides. All right, so we're gonna get into kind of the primary functions here, and I'm gonna kind of talk about our requirements, and then Grace will talk more practically about how you do it in TransAM. So for asset management in TransAM, the first function is adding an asset. So when you have a vehicle delivered through your grant award, you should be entering those vehicles into TransAM pretty much as soon as possible after delivery. For 5310, we say 5 days. It's really, we recommend you just get it in there so you don't forget about it, and then you're scrambling to upload them before the update deadlines. So you're going to enter those vehicles into TransAM. As I mentioned before, if you have any non-federally funded vehicles, don't put those in there. And there's two options for adding assets in TransAM. You can manually add them one at a time using a form you fill out within TransAM, or you can enter one or more assets at a time using the bulk uploads feature. So this is basically, you will put the vehicles into a Microsoft Excel template, and the system provides that template for you to use, and you put the vehicle information all in there and then just upload it to the system, which Grace will talk about soon. And then I just mentioned on here the page numbers of the user guide where you can find step-by-step instructions on how to upload, add assets. The next thing is updating assets. So once you've got those vehicles in there, as you all are probably aware of, you've got at least a minimum of 2 updates you have to do per year. So you can update them more often than that, but for DRPT, we require that by January 15th and July 15th, you update each vehicle's service status, condition, and mileage. So the service status, and again, Grace will walk through exactly where you update these, but each one will give you some options. So service status is just basically if it's in service or out of service, or if you're using the vehicle as a spare. Out of service is particularly useful for vehicles that have been in the shop for a long time. They're just not quite being used for whatever reason. There's also a condition report. That's just to kind of give a broad idea on a scale of 1 to 5 what condition the vehicle is in, and then the mileage is the odometer reading at the time of the report. So just like with adding an asset, data can be updated manually for each asset. within TransAM, or it can be updated using the bulk updates feature for one or more vehicles. Finally, you've had the vehicle, it's in the system, you've been updating it, and it reaches the end of its useful life and it's time to dispose of the vehicle. So you will record the disposition in TransAM actually after you dispose of it. So most of the precursor to that happened off of TransAM, but after you dispose of it by sale, donation, or another means, you will mark it as disposed within TransAM. The vehicle will remain in your inventory, but will show as disposed rather than actively in use. So you'll maintain that historical record of all the updates on it. So if for some reason you need to go back and see what you did with that vehicle in the past, you can still see that. And at the time that you mark a vehicle as disposed, it will have a form that you fill out, and you'll need to know how you disposed it, what date, the mileage at the time of the disposal, and the sale price if applicable. If you are disposing of the vehicle early, so if it's considered an early disposition, meaning before the end of its useful life, you will have the option to choose request early disposition instead of just mark as disposed. And then DRPT staff will review that and accept it so that it can be recorded in TransAM. And again, we're going to get into all that right now with Grace's demo.
Okay, just started sharing. Okay, so we're back on the home page, and I'm first going to just go through the process to manually add and update assets. So to do that, first you can click this little bus to view revenue vehicles. And so this just will show the fleet that has been entered into TransAM. It does not automatically include disposed vehicles. So if you'd like to see that, you'll just have to check off this box. But to edit an asset, first you click on the asset ID. And then you go over here to actions, this little gear here, and drop down to the update. And so there's a lot of different actions you can do to update this asset within the system. But what we require biannually is the condition update, service status update, and then all the way down here, almost to the bottom, the mileage update. And so I'm just going to click into one just to show the screen. I'm not going to make any changes though. And so just to change the service status, you would just click this, enter any comments, out of service, just for us to see or for your own record keeping, and then update the service status, and then that would be complete. If you'd like to mark this as disposed, instead of going into the service status and marking it as disposed there, you would record the final disposition. And so again, if the vehicle has met its useful life within the system, it will automatically be marked as disposed. But as just mentioned, if it has not, then it will go to either one of us for approval. So then you would be able to mark it as disposed within the system. All of these little tabs here, you can edit, say you'd like to add additional information, say you'd like to add the manufacturer just to have a more complete profile of the vehicle. You just go over to the edit button on the right, and you can enter it that way. And then just be sure to save everything. These are not automatically saved. So as you go through each tab at the top, you will have to save individually. And so this is just a way to manually update the asset within the system. I'm going to just go back here very quickly to go over one thing. Sometimes TransAM can be a little hard to navigate, and so oftentimes people prefer to just kind of look at their fleet information offline. And so to do that, you can click on this grid here on the top right to select which columns you would like to export. And so these are just, I think these are the default fields that are included in an export, but say you'd like to include the In-service date, the term condition, and term rating. You can add fields to include in the export. Odometer reading will add that. And again, you can, if you want to get rid of type, you can move it back over there. And then you can click on this little download button to export as a CSV, which is an Excel file. And so I'll just click here to show you what that looks like. And so this, this would have more or less information that has been exported depending on the selected fields. But again, we do a lot of analysis based on TransAM data, and I just prefer oftentimes to do it offline. And so this is a tool that I utilize a lot with this available columns. But now I will show how to manually add an asset. And so again, previously we clicked on revenue vehicles, but I'm going to go all the way down almost to the bottom to add asset. First, you'll select the class. Typically, it will be classified as buses. Even minivans are considered buses in the system. Create new asset. It auto-populates the organization based on your login. You will select the service status, and then you will enter all of the vehicle information here. It looks like most of these fields are required. One thing I'd like to note, the VIN, getting this correct is extremely important. We've just added some new guardrails surrounding VINs. We had some duplicate VINs in the system, and so we want to make sure we get it right as they are entered into the system. So if you're having any issues adding a vehicle, I would say it's likely a VIN issue. So please be sure that the VIN is exactly 17 characters and does not contain O's, I's, or Q's. I think that typically is like what trips up the system is when the VIN is incorrect. But so just going through all of these fields, it looks like they are required. This is just in an effort to have really complete fleet data across the state. So you'll need information such as the manufacturer, the model, the year, fuel type. These are even required fields, the length of the vehicle, the seating capacity. And then the in-service date is, along with the VIN, probably one of the most important fields to have populated correctly, because this is what is used for capital scoring, the in-service date. And so I'm not going to add an asset now, but if you were to click add asset, it would then appear in the list of revenue vehicles here on your agency profile. Are there any questions about the manual editing or adding of an asset? Because I'm going to go to the bulk update here shortly. Okay, Joe, I think you can unmute yourself.
Yes, actually, I have a question about the offline work. On those spreadsheets, that we can customize and download for offline, is it possible to lock the column size to where we don't have to expand out each column after we download it?
I don't think there is a way to have it locked until you've done the initial, like you can do a bulk kind of expansion of the field, but CSVs, which is what the download comes out as, they're not very customizable.
Okay.
So typically what I will do is I will export it as the CSV. I will select it, select all the fields, and then I will format it as a table. So I'll just select this. And then this is customizable this way. And then when I go to save it, so to retain these changes that I've made, just to make it a little bit more easy to navigate and to read, I save it as an Excel workbook. And so that will retain the custom column sizes that I set and the table. So I'll just do like Bristol export. And so that's there. And you can do like filtering that way, sorting. Does that help?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions about the manual updating? Okay, I'm going to move on then to the bulk update. And so just under add assets, you can click on bulk update. You can see that Bristol had done a few here probably when we were just getting started with TransAM. But typically what you will do is you will click create a new template. And so you will have to select if you're doing an inventory update, so updating attributes for existing assets, if you're updating the maintenance records, disposition updates, or new inventory. I'm going to demo inventory updates. And so I'm selecting that, selecting the asset. This is just so they know, so the system knows which assets to populate in this spreadsheet. So I will select buses. If I wanted to do a bulk inventory update on service vehicles, I would go down here and select that. But for this demo, I'm just going to select buses. Click create template. Okay, download file. So here it is in my downloads. Okay, and so this template automatically populated all of the existing in-service assets in the system for Bristol. And so this is a very helpful tool because say I needed to change the service status, say I wanted to put 3 of these vehicles into spare. First I need to enable editing. You can click on the drop down to change these. And so this, I can put in today's date, 9/18/2024. And so on. I can also update the current condition and update the date where I changed the condition rating, and then mileage. So this is again another big one. I can update the mileage, say we'll do 210,000. That is as of 9/18/2024. I'm not going to do the update, but I'm going to go through the process. So I'm going to save this template with the changes here. So just for sake, this is changing to spare status, and then this is the mileage. Saving here. I'm going to go back to TransAM to the bulk update. And so instead of clicking create new template, I will then upload a template. And so again, I'm not going to go through with the process, but the spreadsheet contents are inventory updates because that is what I selected when I was creating the template. And then from here, you will choose the file. So right here, this is the file. It's in my downloads. This is, it was updated by me just a minute ago. And then I will click this. And then I will upload the spreadsheet. Again, I'm not going to do it, but that really is all there is to the bulk upload for inventory updates. I'm going to go ahead and demo the bulk update for adding new assets. And so again, I will go to create new template. Instead of inventory updates, I'm going to do new inventory. And I'm going to select revenue buses. And so I'm going to, again, click create template. Download the file. And so this, because it is, because it's not pulling from existing data, it just has a little bit of guidance here for what you should be entering as you're doing the bulk upload. And so this is helpful, just a helpful reminder for the necessary or for the required fields. And so I'm going to click revenue vehicles. And so again, I can use the drop down, enter the VIN, asset ID, external ID, all of this stuff. There are drop downs for most of it. So buses can go through, I'll just say it's a minivan. Okay, I think that is. And so all of these are pre-populated. So it's pretty intuitive. Once you get to it, you can just select and it auto-populates manufacturer, model. I think that's probably based on the manufacturer field. And all of these green fields are required. So I don't know, say it's 20 feet. All of these, it will not accept the bulk upload if these are not populated. And so again, you'll just go through with all of these required green fields in the spreadsheet. It is long.
Can I jump in for
Sure.
a second? I just want to say also for this, and obviously if you're just adding one asset at a time, that written guidance, particularly actually the written guidance we mentioned, the human services program guidance, it defines each and every one of these fields. So if you're looking at the options and you're like, I don't really know what this means or what I should be selecting, I highly recommend that you look at that written guidance because it will spell out all the different fields and kind of what they mean and what it's looking for. So that should definitely help you out with understanding what needs to be filled in. Otherwise, it may feel like you're kind of just guessing, but it is spelled out for you in that written guidance.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've done a lot of data cleanup efforts, but of course it is great if we, have all of the correct information as soon as the asset is added into TransAM. And so, you can add as many vehicles as you have received in here. And so I'm just going to save it just to go through the process for adding new inventory via the bulk update. So again, I'll go back to upload a template. New inventory, because again, these vehicles do not currently exist in the system. And then again, I will select the spreadsheet for the new inventory, and then I will click upload. And if all of the information is correct and it kind of passes TransAM's set guardrails, the vehicles will be uploaded and you will see them in the revenue vehicle list here. If they are not, it will kind of flag the fields that need a second look or revisions. Again, typically, I think it will be around the VIN. Does anybody have any questions about the bulk upload feature?
I have a quickie on the update. If let's say a condition has not changed, do you just leave that field a blank or not use the drop down to change a date? Like just say your condition's still 2.
I think I'm actually not sure. I had this question myself. I'm not sure if you can leave it blank, but I think it probably would just be good practice to re-enter the condition with today's date, even if it hasn't changed.
Okay,
Just to
great.
show that, on today's date, it is still, a 2.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I think that covers it. Jess, was there anything else?
Did you go through disposition?
Yeah, I'll just quickly go through that again. And so again, as you go here, you can update, but then you can also record a final disposition here in this top right action button. And so then the vehicle, once it's marked as disposed, it will kind of drop off of this list until you click on the include disposed. So this is a way to see in-service vehicles, but then also disposed. You can see that here in the service status field. And these have the in-service date, but then they also include the date of disposition. Okay, Jess, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. Sorry, my presentation is still loading. All right. Well, that is pretty much it. I guess the last thing we'll talk about is just, troubleshooting, or if you're having any issues. Sorry, I don't know if I just cut out for a second there, but talk about troubleshooting, or if you're having any issues with TransAM. The primary contacts are myself and Grace. I think most of you kind of have reached out to us at one time or another if you've had issues, but continue to do so. We do ask that you don't contact Cambridge Systematics or TransAM staff directly. We have a direct contact with them, and if we need to bring her in, Grace and I can kind of do that. If we just need to escalate the problem, but usually between her and I, we can solve most things. And then, of course, again, just reference that written guidance that will definitely help with a lot of questions. But Grace and I are always happy to jump on and demo anything, or just help you with any issue you're having. With that, I guess I'll just ask if there's any final questions, thoughts, anything you guys want to know before we let you go. Pat Epps, it looks like you can unmute yourself now. There you go.
Okay. I have two questions, actually. Can you give me the link again if you're trying to reset your password and you get a message? What was that link? CAM something?
Oh, yes, sorry. It's on here. It's allowing emails from this domain name to the camsys.com domain.
Okay, I got that. Thank you.
Okay.
And then my second question is about the useful life of a vehicle. Can you tell me what that is?
Yes, so for most vehicles, it's 4 years or 100,000 miles, or we say and 100,000 miles. But the system will, I believe, Grace, correct me if I'm wrong. Does it do both, or does it just do the years? Do you know?
I think it does either or. Like it's
either or.
It's
Okay.
reached its useful life if it's either 4 years or has 100,000 miles.
Okay, so when you get to useful life, I know you all still have the titles to the vehicles. What's the process for our agency to get the titles so that we can do with it whatever it is we deem we need to do?
Yes, so you'll reach out to me. So we're talking about 5310 for any 5311s on
Right.
here.
Right.
So yes, when you reach your useful life and you're ready to dispose of the vehicle, right now you will send me an email and
Okay.
give me the VIN, the mileage, and the year of the vehicle, and just kind of, why you want to dispose of it or what's going on. And then we'll do a whole title release process from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, looks like we got a couple more folks. I think Pam McGregor is next.
Ask my question. Thank you. This has been wonderful. But even if we're not planning to dispose of the vehicle, but it's over 4 years old, contact you to start the title process.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yep. And then Karen.
Hi there. I just wanted to clarify on the 4 years, 100,000 miles. It has to be and. It's not an and or. We've always been told it's 4 years
Yes.
and 100,000 miles.
Yes. That's Karen. That's correct. It's we're
Okay.
talking about the system. The system does an or, just because it's a little different for 5310. So
Okay.
it's basically you're correct about your requirements. the system is set up to allow you to dispose of it at 4 or 100,000. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you for the clarification.
Yep. Thank
Do you
you.
think that's different for 5311? I think we have the or.
Yeah. Yeah. You all have the or.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none right now. Again, feel free to reach out. Oh my gosh. Computer's blowing up. All right, there. Reach out to myself or Grace if you need any assistance. In case any of you missed it, we are going to, this is recorded and we will be sending out the recording with the slides and the written guidance out to everyone who registered. So you'll get all this in your email soon. And thank you very much for attending, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. It was great, very helpful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.